Hello and welcome back to the Aligned Mind Body Show. And as you can see, today I'm changing it up a bit. We're not going to be on the mat and we won't be moving much. We're going to be, it's an interview style session or episode today. And I'm very lucky and honored to be joined here today by Renee Hope Cooper, who is a communications guru and is a speaker who has been doing this for 15 plus years and has helped a lot of people really come out of their shells, help to improve their communication skills, make an influence upon other, and present themselves in such a way where it's authentic and impactful. So I'm very excited for this interview. I got my questions down packed so I wouldn't forget them and I can make sure I can ask them because she's so full of information. And yeah, let's take a moment to just introduce yourself. And I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you. It was a joy to meet you.
Yes.
And that, like, we had such a great conversation. It was like, wow, could this keep going?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like it aligns so much. Even though we're not moving today, it's still going to align with the philosophy of just, you know, being influenced, having presence, you know, being present,
Yes.
and really coming out and shining through your true authentic self. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So,
It's so nice to see you all. Thank you for having me.
if you like, I mean, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about what your style is and what it is that you do, how you help people. A little intro, and then I have some questions down packed. But
Oh, that's
shoot
awesome.
however you want. And
Thank you.
Just hit me with what you got today.
Yeah, thank you, Nanette. So I'm Renee Cooper, and I'm a speaker, and I'm a life-changing speech coach, but I wasn't always. I kind of knew my journey when I was in high school. I knew then that I wanted to empower and educate and teach, but I just didn't know what it was going to look like, right?
Right. Yeah.
Many of us have those journeys. And it took me a lot of stumbling and misalignment throughout my career to then stumble upon bad job situations where all I wanted to do was be who I was and be accepted for my talents and gifts, only to be faced with the adversity of, oh, stay in your lane, that's not your job, we have someone who does that. So it took me a long time, and that's why I'm so stoked to be here today. If I could save even one person, the despair, and I mean utter despair, of squashing your dreams and what that looks like and what can look like, then I know that I'll have achieved my mission today.
Awesome.
I stepped into this work with like a knowing that I had a voice. And I was the person that people looked to throughout my educational journey. I was the one that answered people's questions. I was the one where people tapped me, Renee, can you ask this question? Can you ask that question? And I became like the spokesperson for all people, which I find funny because I was not a popular kid and I was not in, the popular group. But yet I always knew that my voice was my vehicle to get me not just what I wanted, but maybe it was because, like, to be quite honest, I was bullied a lot in my life. I was bullied big time. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and we had a lot of gangs where we lived.
Tough. Yeah.
And, I mean, I remember, like, running away from kids with rocks, and it used to piss me off that they wanted to hurt me. I'm like, I'm all but 5'2" with heels, and I was always a little kid. And that kind of, like, I think that was my impetus for, hey, you know what? You're not going to step on me. And that became like the story of my life. You're not going to step on me. And so I really did realize that my voice was going to be the way in which I carried myself to not only just get what I want, but to help others get what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it's fascinating because I had to go through so much muck and so many wrong jobs and not having confidence for so many years of my life to not know, like, I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a broadcaster. And I think I shared this with you when I met you. I let family and friends and people in my distractions to tell me every reason why I couldn't
Yeah.
be the person that I
I feel
wanted
like
to
that's
be.
how it is when you have a calling. You're like, you're going to
Yes.
be faced with these
Yeah.
like roadblocks.
Yes.
Like the more
Yes.
you follow your path, you're like, no, this is your obstacle. This is the person we're going to put in a way to try to stop you. Like, but even like you're wanting
Yes.
to do broadcasting and journalism, it still is something to what related to what you're doing now. So it's just a
Yes.
calling that's been in you for so long.
It's a calling that's been in me for so long, and with all of the rejection that I faced, I then just kept like going back to I wasn't trusting myself. And so the way that I stepped into this work was I always just found my way back to education, like doing something related to education or training, or somehow I was able to connect with people. Like that's what I knew was my core. Like I love that feeling
Yeah.
of being with people. And I learned about myself that I was a thoughtful person, meaning like I like to ask people questions. Whereas most people, when they, are in a situation where they're meeting others, it's like, hey, how are you? What do you do? For me, it was like, hey, like, what are you working on? What motivates you? What do you enjoy most when you're not working? And I knew that my level of thought was taking me down the road to what I do now.
No, exactly.
So how I got here was kind of fascinating, but yet it wasn't, because it was something that I knew that I wanted 20 years ago.
Right? Yeah, like surprise, but not so surprised.
Right.
Like it was just a ladder.
It was a
Like-
ladder. And when I think I had shared with you my career, what really set me off in trusting myself, which is a lot of what communication and effective communication is about. It's about trusting your voice. It's not just what you say. My career was spent in the corporate fundraising world.
Yeah, I saw
I
your
raised millions of
millions,
dollars,
yeah.
for over 15 years.
Wow, yeah.
And I did that despite where like friends of mine were getting promoted to executive director of the organization. I stayed as a corporate rep. And I remember even then have to overcome the adversity where people said to me, well, why are you staying stuck in this job? Why don't you go for the next level? And you know what my answer was? Because I won't be speaking.
Exactly.
I'd be
Yeah, it's
writing
taking you out of
reports.
your
I'd be
place.
taking me out of the one thing that I love the most, which is being with people.
Absolutely.
So I'd have to say, I know this is a long answer to the question,
Yeah.
but what got me here was knowing that I needed to root for the underdog. I needed to help those that needed to be helped. I needed to give them a voice. And through giving these people a voice, what started happening was people of all levels would start coming to me and saying, hey, I need to speak a lot and I hate it. Or how do you seem to enjoy it so much? Or how do you even have half the energy to speak knowing that this is your third presentation? But when I was in my late 20s, I didn't have answers to those questions.
Right? It's like a learning process. You were
It took me a
gathering.
lot of years to get to where I am.
Exactly.
and
yeah,
why I
yeah,
do this
yeah.
work.
And that path that you followed, that you've so inspirational
Oh,
to hear
thank you,
about
Nana. Thank
the
you.
past and staying to your path. Some of us, we feel like we have those callings, and it's impactful when you meet someone that has really stuck through the mud and has gotten to what their passion truly is, what they really love doing. And that leads you and like myself to be teachers,
Yes.
So
Yes.
before I ask
Yes.
you about your first teaching experience, I wanted to know a little bit more about stop presenting and start connecting a little bit. What that means,
awesome.
Like,
I love blowing the lid off of this question because, like any of us in life, whatever we're professionals in, our awareness is on that. So, for example, if I were, like a professional like you, I would be able to detect someone who needs what I do, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like that. And I started to notice throughout my career as a fundraiser, there were my colleagues alone, not my colleagues alone, but starting with them, they just were so burnt out. Oh, I have another presentation. I got to just get it done with. I just got to get it over with. And yet that was their job, like to be influential for that moment, for that audience. But all they were looking at was the end. I just want to get it done with.
presentation, just
And they had
Yeah.
3 a day also. I just got to get it done with. And I was starting to understand the power of storytelling before it became a thing, which is now in the business world, it's so talked about widely, the
Yeah.
power of telling stories.
Yes.
Right? Which goes back to like ancient civilizations.
Yes.
Okay.
It's true,
Right.
yes.
And so, but yet it wasn't talked about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And so it took me a long time to get to where I am now to realize, wow, most people, when they have a presentation to do, they're thinking about getting it done. So what are they lacking? They're lacking presence. They're lacking that very thing that is disconnecting them from their audience, whether it's an audience of an interview panel or you're pitching a product, they're lacking that ability to be in the moment, to share what's in the moment, to get that energy exchange going.
Absolutely.
They're
yes.
just thinking about, I have this
Yes.
practiced, I have this rehearsed, okay, I'm ready.
Body here, awareness
Mind
is
elsewhere.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So that like started lighting me up, like, wow, that's what people need help with. And
Absolutely.
a lot of people like mistake what I do and they go, oh, Renee, I'm not interested in being a public speaker. I'm like, you don't need to be. You
No,
don't need
not
to
at
be.
all. No.
But are you sharing a message? Are
Even-
you sharing an idea?
Even for a teacher like myself, as a yoga teacher, I see this a lot in yoga teachers where they lose their voice, and the yoga teachers that stand out the most are the ones that have the storytelling abilities during the yoga classes, the ones that can regulate their tone of voice either up or down, and soften or give a cue when needed. So as a yoga teacher, mostly yoga, it's really guiding the person or the group through that experience that is yoga, engaging in the stories of the deities and why the poses sometimes are from those deities or whatnot. So even for yoga teachers, like sometimes there's I'm not a communication specialist, I specialize in something different, but I see them, I'm like, gosh, if you only could find that power, that voice, that storytelling, that being in the moment. And even though you're a yoga teacher, they kind of, not
Yep.
really in the moment.
Yes,
They're just
yes.
stuck in anatomical cues.
Or stuck
maybe,
in do this, do
or
that.
Very minimal cues,
Yeah.
So as a yoga teacher, even it's so important, and it's changed the way I engage with
That's
my
fabulous.
group, and
Right.
even the way they move and the way they breathe and how they can connect with me. Like we're moving at the same rhythm when.
See, and that's beautiful. What you just said, I think, is so key, and what a lot of people are looking for, but they don't realize they're looking for it. What you just said, Nanette, guiding. You're guiding them
Guiding.
through. And that's no different if I were to stand here and attempt to sell you this candle, these flowers, that phone. I want to take you down a journey. It's not just about the benefits and all of the research and the facts about why yoga is so great. It's like in that moment, it's like, I want you to feel what it feels like to release. And again, I don't know your work, but I want you to
Yes.
feel the muscles. I want you to feel yourself being in your body. Like that's asking people to be in the present moment,
Absolutely.
which most times we're not.
And you said something so interesting about ancient times, how we used to gather for like storytelling. It's like, presenting, I can totally see it. If you can change the perspective and just, you're telling a story, it's within a group of people, and it isn't, you're not presenting. You are, engaging with your audience, you're connecting, and you can turn it into a story, into an influential.
Yes, because
and more-
if we were to all think about, and many of us have blockages with this, and I get that, but if we were to think back to like our very first moment when someone influential in our life read us a story, whether it was in circle time in preschool or kindergarten with the teacher who said, okay, boys and girls, it's story time now. And the teacher sat there with that book. And when he or she opened that book and turned the page and actually learned to like, not even say a word to you. And they said, boys and girls, please look at this picture. And the teacher would start to read and recognize that there's a period at the end of a sentence because the teacher's animated in telling the story. This is what people are not realizing,
Absolutely.
even at high levels.
Absolutely.
I work with CEOs and executives that are ranting off their knowledge like it's as if it's a part of their muscle memory, which it is.
Yes, practically, yes.
It is. They know their message better than anyone else. But when they share with me, I don't think that audience got what I really wanted them to get.
Right.
Then it's like, aha, now we can start to see, if we take you back to those original stories that you were told, what showed up, what was different, what looked different.
It was the experience with the person that was guiding you through that moment they were with you, you know.
Right. And being able to say, the rabbit jumped over the bridge.
Absolutely.
You know, it's
Yeah,
like it's something as simple as that, right?
Absolutely.
And then like language and emotions, I am like obsessed with language and emotions.
It's true. Yeah, yeah. Language and emotions. Explain that a little bit more. Explain that to me.
Yeah, so this is fascinating too. If I were to tell you again, like the amount of people even that I hear from who want to grow their businesses, entrepreneurs, where they're like, "Oh, I just don't know. I just don't feel like I'm getting the connection with people, you know, that I'm speaking to." And it's like, "Okay, how are you feeling about your message?"
Yeah.
And they go, "Wait, what?" I go, "Okay, how do you feel about this message?" And it's the first time they were asked that.
About their own personal.
Correct. So when we
message.
step into the work and we say, well, what feeling do you want your audience to feel after you read that thing that you rehearsed, that you wrote? Again, mind shift,
Scripted.
right? It's like, oh, I want them to feel empowered. Okay, so what does it take for you to feel empowered before you even say a word?
Absolutely. It's absolutely true. You cannot empower your audience if you're not
It's
in
no
that state
different. It's no
yourself.
different like for all of us. We all get this from, and I'm not an expert in manifestation, and I'm not an expert in what's the science out there that's so, it's like it's a certain type of science, not physics, but not metaphysics. I don't know the name of it. It'll come to
Yeah,
me
where
after.
they talk more about manifesting.
Yeah,
and
but
stuff
there's
like
a
that.
science
Yeah.
about that. If we, each of us, walk into a room or walk into any place, what is the first thing we say? I don't like the vibe here. Or,
Absolutely.
oh, this feels like a great vibe. If we were to see that that's what we are the creator of when it comes to even sharing something with someone, we start to see that we're doing that before we even say a word in front of our
Absolutely.
audience, even when that
Absolutely.
camera goes on, before we say a word. So I know this is like big level stuff,
But
but
it ultimately, I mean, unless you start to, even as someone that's trying to improve their communications, if you actually don't start to work on that, it may seem like partly, but in that simple concept of you yourself being present, you feeling empowered, you giving yourself that like that,
yep,
assurance and that conviction and that
right.
self-trust.
Yes.
It's really hard. It's just going to be so hard to get it out.
Exactly.
Like in a real way, or
That's
in a
exactly.
real.
And then what happens? We go back to our normal default, which is we speak in which we think. And
Programmed, scripted.
it's
Yeah.
called default voice.
Yeah,
It's the
default
voice in which we
voice.
think with. We just start speaking. And then we're racing so fast that we're tripping over ourselves, that's where all of these crutch words come in. The likes, the so's, the yeah, the you know what I mean, and that's what you've lost your audience. So it's kind of like, it's like a giving back. You know, speaking is not about, it's really about, I should say it this way. People aren't afraid to speak because they're afraid of speaking. They're afraid of self-judgment
Yes.
and judgment.
Yes.
So that's why I guess I've been so convicted to take my clients. I love working with young students, college students, high school students. I have a couple of young ones in my practice, but to get them to trust that like what they're about to say has more impact than the way they say it.
Yes.
Like understanding there's a reason why you want to share this. If we start from there, it's no different than when you get into a boat and you see yourself getting, to the island. It's
Yeah.
like you have a goal.
You have
Like
a goal,
I know
you're
I want to,
getting there.
like my work is important because, and we can get to that point, then we're able to delve into tapping into like why we do what we do and how we
Yeah.
can tweak things and how we can discover and step into new boxes.
Cool. This, question as a teacher, what kind of tools do you provide them? Like what kind of practices, 'cause I'm of course align mind body. I talk a lot about the awareness and the presence and stuff like that. Like, what kind of
Yeah, this
tips
is
and
great.
tools,
Yeah, so
reps and sets of mind setting that you
that's it. I love it. And this is a great question. And one of the biggest things is we have to, and you get this, we have to meet people where they are, right? And we have to get an understanding of what is their story about it, right? If I were to work with you about when it comes to yoga and
yeah,
right,
yeah, helping a voice,
right? If I say to you, oh, I had the worst experience, so I don't do yoga anymore. Naturally, what are you going to do? You're going to want to know about my experience. This is no different. We go back before we can sprinkle any tools or anything. We have to go back.
kind of dissect.
We have to go way back, which is
Yeah,
actually
start dissecting more.
we have to
into
understand
the
like what happened. Like what is your
triggers, I would say,
right,
kind of,
right,
ish,
and
you know.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's like what first happened. Like when was your first experience? What do you remember? And when I take my clients back there, it doesn't matter what age. I'm working with a 19-year-old right now who was so stuck in how when he was 7 years old, he was told to sit down because nobody could hear him. The teacher said, forget it, sit down. And that one experience triggered him.
Incredible.
So now at 19, oh no, I don't like to speak.
It's incredible how we,
I don't know.
how this
And
lives
so
in our
it's funny,
subconscious and,
right?
sits there and we don't even realize that it's,
Big time. So
holding us
isn't this
back.
true? Like, don't you need to
Absolutely,
do this too?
with human body, I look at the injuries they've had, the way that their posture it's set, how their body is moving in their daily activities, and this helps me address their movement patterns and helps me restore their posture and see
Right.
what's causing
And if
pain
I
and
share with
discomfort,
you information about something, you're going to go, wait a minute, I need to know more about that.
Yeah.
Because that makes sense now. It's no different.
Exactly.
So what
Incredible.
I call it, it's like we have to discover what is your why about why you feel speaking is hard.
So you
or
take them to the root cause,
Have
which
to.
is ultimately a healing process in
It's
its
a healing
own.
process, but I also am always transparent in the fact that like I have it on my collaterals. I'm not a therapist, and if there's a point where I have someone comes to me and I see that there's stuff, I will suggest it because this road is about self-empowerment.
It's revealing.
It's very revealing.
Yeah, revealing. It's revealing. So but ultimately, us getting to our ultimate goal, we have to have these types of revelations of what is holding us back, and
Yeah, I
from
mean,
reaching our
I'm
ultimate
working with a
potential.
client right now who is a very influential, electrician in Broward County, and he's also a professional super skater. I've never even heard of what this is.
Cool.
This is called like skating 190 miles, like in a marathon. He skated just recently 190 miles. Now, talk about mindset.
That's my stuff.
So for him, I have to relate a lot of what we do in this work when I can feel his resistance and his fear coming up. It's like, well, wait a minute. What got you from mile 60
to 100.
to 100? What happened? So I have to and I'm not a skater, right?
True. Yeah. It's just
I have to bring
meeting
him
them
back.
where they are, and
But I have to relate it for him, what did that feel like when you had to go from 60 to 100? What resistance did you have? And so for every one of my clients, that's like what I feel I have to do. Because then they were able to relate to it better when they see it for themselves with their own challenges
exactly
to get to their next level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it absolutely makes sense because I have to pretty much dissect. I call it the Carfax of a human body because we
that's
keep
cool.
record of all the accidents, incidents, and troubles we've had with our body mechanics to be able to address what's occurring now. 'Cause it matters.
It matters.
Their history and body mechanics and injuries are important.
And wouldn't you say for you too, isn't there a lot of impact mentally? Like a lot of these things impact your
Absolutely.
clients mentally, like
A fear of
right,
re-injury.
fear
of
it
getting
could be
re-injury.
debilitating,
Yes,
can it?
Absolutely, yes. That's why I have to meet them where they are and guide them and teach them exercises where they feel safe so they can
Yes.
adapt to that.
100%.
And their nervous system adapts to that movement. They understand it's safe, and then we can progress in that type of way. It's a a slow progress, but it's beautiful and it's long lasting.
beautiful?
Yes.
I love that. And we share that in common. That's exactly to answer
saying.
your question, what I do. Once we discover, we're in self-discovery, well, what happened? We get to then transition to, okay, great, let's take that and add on what moves you, what lights you up. And I don't mean, it's funny, people instantly go to their career, and I actually peel off that layer. I don't want to
Important.
go there. I want to go like, this may sound silly, but what's your favorite thing to do if you didn't have to work? I help people tap into their passion and their joy, because when we're not really allowed to sit in our joy too much.
Yes, that's true. Yes. It's
Right?
quick, short lived.
It's quick, short-lived, and we know the people in our life that we can share it with, and we know the people in our life that we can't.
Right? Yes.
So when we're in a safe environment, working with a mentor or a coach, like me, for example, that's helping take you on that journey to see that your passions and your dreams are sacred, and they give you something because they tug at us. When we step into that, we're building self-trust.
Exactly. They're safe.
And I don't care if
safe.
it's a CEO or if it's a student.
Absolutely, doesn't matter what level of anything you are. This is an introspection.
That's been very
It's-
eye-opening for me.
Yes, it's introspective and it's awareness, and that does not have a material, tactile.
No,
You understand?
it doesn't.
It's a difference.
It's correct. And then that's when I can start layering, because I used to teach improvisation in high
Yes.
school,
That's
and I
one of
take
my
improv classes whenever I can on my own because they're just so fun. And so that's when we sprinkle on, okay, this is the modality. We do vocal warm-ups, and then we go into improv exercises, and then we seed whatever is the pillar that we need to get to for you, because
Right.
for you it may look different than for someone else. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay, so I have some aligned mind-body questions.
Oh, that's great. Yes,
Alignment
yes.
and mind-body.
I love this. Yes.
Do you view communication as a mind-body experience? If so, how do breath, posture, or nervous system regulation play into how we speak and connect?
Oh my God, I love this question. And it's something that I had to dig into and learn on my own, because wouldn't you find this fascinating? In my 20 years of experience in fundraising, that was never brought up, ever. Even when you go into like certain leadership courses, never brought up. I had never been offered a vocal training session any time. I had to seek it on my own.
Yourself, yes.
Yes. So when I started learning about vocal exercises, people in my industry would say to me, Why? If they want vocal work, they can go to a voice coach." And that's where I knew like I was onto something.
Yeah.
If I cannot help someone tap
To
into
their physical, also too, like how to channel their,
what their voice box even is.
yes.
Right? People think that we're
Absolutely.
just speaking from this. It's not true. If you go to different cultures, you start talking to people from different parts of the world. If you speak to an Italian and you
Have a
ask them,
different
"How are you
tone,
doing
yeah.
today?" It's like, "Oh, they're speaking, oh, I'm so good. How are you?" And they're speaking, even young children. You hear it in the dogs too. When you
True,
go on TikTok,
yes.
like they're speaking from here.
From a box, from a nice power, internal,
Yes.
vibrational
Yes.
making power.
So to answer your question, very much we go into exercises that allow for, and again, I've only tipped the surface for my own learning when it comes to somatic healing.
Cool.
But like I do certain somatic exercises to relieve the trapped energy. Not release, excuse me, release trapped energy that's allowing for more breath to go into the lungs.
exactly, and more
Because
clarity.
when we have that, and then we couple that with facial exercises and vocal exercises, well, now when you're asked to speak up about something, your body is naturally able to.
Have the
Instead
muscle
of
memory, you
right,
have the...
instead of thinking. That's why it bothers me when a student or a parent of a student will come to me and say, my child just doesn't speak up enough. And when we go into that, the teacher says, can never hear him. And she's I'm asking you to speak up. Well, there's a reason why.
Find your power.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. It's facial expression, it's body, it's the voice from within, it's the tone, how it goes up, how it goes down.
100%.
They're you're losing them, you can kind of get them back.
And listen, I have my own mentors too, and I've learned to treat this like an instrument, which we're never taught to treat it like an instrument. We're taught to exercise our brain through meditation and mindfulness. We're taught to exercise our body.
But then there's a different
But
type
are
of
we
exercise.
ever taught to exercise this very thing that we use for every purpose.
Wow, thank you so much, Renee. How can people reach out to you? Really quick, your phone number, your
thank
quick
you.
website.
Yes,
We're going to put
yes.
all the information on there is on the description, so make
Yes.
sure to check the description. It's going to have all her links so you can reach out to her.
Yes,
But tell
yes.
them really quickly.
So
how you can get
yes,
to them.
so please feel free to reach out to me if you have a question or just have something that you're curious about, or if you're looking for more support at stepintoyourvoice.com. And for those of you that would like to take it another level and learn more, I would love to have you join my community of like-minded people. And I just had my web designer update it, but it's reneecooper.com. And there you can just enter your name and download a packet and free tips that you are not going to find on Google to help you starting today.
It's helpful for everyone, and even you teachers that you see me, you watch me sometimes, my instructors, if you need any assistance in
Thank you.
finding your voice and kind of, taking it up a notch in your training game, this matters too. So thank you for
yes.
joining the Align Mind Body Show. I hope you liked this little shift today. I thought it was so important. This is so helpful.
This was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
And yeah, I'll see you guys for the next one. Thank you for joining.
Thank you
for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Align Mind Body today. I hope you're feeling a little more connected, centered, and aware of how your body moves and breathes. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress and mindfulness in each moment. To book a consultation, appointment, or for more information, contact me at 954-261-4719 or support@thevaulttraining.online. Be kind to yourself, stay intentional, and I'll see you next time as we continue this journey toward alignment and wellness.